Welcome everyone to the HR Green Room, the place where people, culture and a couple of splashes of green come together. We're your hosts. I'm James Proctor, Chief Operating Officer at Phase 3.
I'm Louise Johnston, Head of Customer Success at Phase 3.
And together we lift the curtain on the world of HR with fresh ideas, honest conversations and a few surprises along the way. Each episode we'll ask what made us green with envy, what deserves the green light in the world of HR, and of course we'll be joined by some brilliant guests, as we are today, who bring their own colour to the conversation too. So grab a seat, the show's about to start in the HR Green Room. So, welcome Pete.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries.
Nice
Do you want
to see you.
to tell us where you're from? What's your name, where you come from? Do you still have a moment?
I'm Peter Dunbavin. I'm Head of Partnerships at Employment Hero. Relatively new. I've only been there 2 months, previously at Xero. I'm really enjoying my journey so far and getting to dive into the world of HR.
How are you finding it so far?
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying it. The team is fairly at its infancy, especially the channel within the UK. So I've really got free rein to kind of build it up from the ground and really start kind of putting my own spin on it. So yeah, so far so good. And I've got 2 new hires coming in the next 2 months that I'm really excited about. So yeah, at the minute, so far so good and really enjoying it.
Yeah. Great. So Employment Hero were massive in Australia.
That's right.
And now came across to the UK. So tell us a bit more about Employment Hero and kind of who your kind of target audience is.
Yeah, I mean, the main target audience, right, is supporting SMBs with that kind of HR transition. So, when you get to a certain size of an org and then you need to make sure that everything has kind of its compliance ticked off. You need to make sure that you're supporting and developing your people. You need to make sure that you can, you've got a formatted kind of software that allows you to, the moving parts of the business, everything's kind of equated for and tracked, and it doesn't become a pain, right? I think hiring people can be super scary. So Employment Hero positions itself in the markets to take away a lot of that scare mentality and actually create a platform that allows you to comfortably hire and feel like you're also offering the right development and the right course of action for each hire. So yeah, we're really well positioned in the kind of SMB space, and as we kind of evolve, we want to be able to kind of nuance the approach within that. We actually call ourselves like an operating system.
Yes.
Right. And the CEO is very passionate about driving like a true full cycle of support across a full, up to recruitment, up to, we even run a Hero Foundation, right? And that's supporting people that might find it harder to get in certain job roles or maybe come from a disability background, and they want to be empowered to be able to kind of position themselves within those roles. So we're very, very passionate about kind of supporting the SMB and the growth within that space, and then kind of evolving the product so that it's, it's kind of a full suite of all your needs as a small business.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And that it is today's topic around maintaining company culture in fast-growing organisations, and there becomes that inflection point, doesn't there? And I think we've experienced this as well, where you go from paper spreadsheets, that's all fine, but then you get to a point where probably around 20 employees, you start to think we need a bit more structure and process now. So. And having something that grows with you is incredible as well, because you don't want to put all that effort in, especially because in a small business, there's probably not going to be a HR manager. Let's face it, it's going to be somebody who's doing that as part of their job, as we were just discussing off camera before in terms of businesses with no HR teams. So yeah, it's really interesting. And I think the operating model that you talk about quite a lot in Employment Hero, I've seen that mentioned quite a few times, and the support that goes with that is incredible as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think ultimately we want to take that off the desk, really. So, we kind of transition. We probably have a model where we would, that kind of 20 inflection point, we would support that. But then also like HR, like consultants that support those types of businesses as well. We want to be able to bridge that gap and allow them to have a platform that they can truly impact the businesses kind of from a third party view as well. So yeah, we're very much focused on anything that makes the lives of small businesses a little bit easier, and they can focus on the stuff that really makes them kind of gets their kind of creative juices flowing, whatever that might be, and take away the burden of sometimes what can seem as a very scary prospect of getting employment wrong.
Yeah, you've already mentioned recruitment a couple of times, and with that size organisation, every hire that you make is either going to reinforce the culture or dilute it. Exactly. So it is a really difficult time. How does Employment Hero help these organisations that maybe don't have HR professionals or a particular person in recruitment?
Yeah, I mean, we always look at kind of recruitment, right, as it's you haven't got a recruitment problem, you've got a why should I stay problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And I think the basis of, I mean, culture is there's people think perks are culture. They're not.
Yes.
A culture is an attitude, a behaviour. It's how people are treated. And I think ultimately, you know, the power that a capable software solution that sits behind the scenes and all this stuff, it creates a framework that allows you to pivot on everything that is important to that, the development of that person, the feel of support, the flexibility within the role. Everything can become like an easy offset task, and it's not a kind of a tracked difficult maintenance kind of additional to what you would already be trying to achieve. So I think like ultimately like we support what that culture looks like specifically, but you can branch off and create your own culture within that. You just need a formatted surrounding, right? Similar to me starting this brand new team. Actually, the difficulty, it wasn't the individuals, it wasn't necessarily the mindset or the culture necessarily. It was that they didn't have any formatted processes with everything in terms of the day-to-day, so they don't even know what good looks like.
Yeah.
Right? So very much it's about creating that basis of support, making sure that you can, at each inflection point or like driver within each of the role functions, you've got a clear like accessibility to what good looks like across that process and be able to drive that internally.
And that's one of those things, isn't it, in smaller businesses? Like, again, there becomes a point where processes aren't documented because everybody knows everything and you're just chatting about it, but then somebody, you know, starts to come in, new people, and then you think, how do we teach people how to do this? And you don't want to end up with that key person risk that one person has all the knowledge, and that is a real issue in a lot of businesses.
100%. I mean, every business that I've ever worked in, there's always that one person that you go to, right? And they know everybody. Speak to Al, speak to Al, right? And I think the development and the onboarding process, it allows you to kind of bridge those gaps instantly, and then the ongoing development and how that kind of filters out to the wider business. Everybody's on the same page at all points and all times. And I think as a leader, that's paramount to being able to ensure that, I mean, literally on a daily basis, I'll get your team's not done this course or your team's not done that course, so they need to catch up with this. And I think that just allows us that kind of cadence of almost like it get to grips with where people are up to within that, and then it even kind of allows me to jump in as well where people are potentially struggling in a certain aspect. We've just recently gone through a structural change in terms of how we're rewarding our partners, right? And it is quite complex on the surface, but when you break it down, it's fairly kind of like simple to explain to the individuals, but the actual topic of it was really difficult. So what we did with the leadership team, the kind of the development team, as part of kind of the development support, which we broke it down a little bit and just got the headline numbers and what that looks like to the individuals, and then over time we can execute the understanding of what sits behind that without over complexing it. Just give them the kind of high level surface numbers, but all that development and support is supported through the frameworks that sit underneath.
And you choose what's important then, don't you? That's the thing. Yeah, because the tools might be prompting you that this training's overdue, but actually if it's not relevant for that person, or it's something that actually in the grand scheme of all of their priorities is quite low, at least you can manage it, but you are getting those prompts and reminders so it's not being forgotten. Yeah,
and you can kind of pick and choose that, but there's kind of almost the urgency level within that amongst all the other red light priorities that we have on a daily basis.
I mean, we've been in a very small business. I was employee number 5. What's your number?
7.
7, yeah. I can never remember if it was Brad or you first, which way around that was,
Brad.
Yeah. So we've been through that process, and we've grown and shrunk and grown again. And it's really interesting for our kind of perspective, isn't it, to see that business developing and evolving and growing up ultimately and maturing over time.
Yeah, because it's like you get stuck in your old ways, but you know that you need that new structure. And I think as a growing business, sometimes there's that fear as well as, are we going to lose what makes us feel special as an organisation?
Small company superglue, as it was once referred to. That thing that holds you all together. And it's interesting because we've discussed this before, but where do you stand on calling your team a family?
It's definitely not a term that I've ever used as a leader. I think ultimately, like family, what does that actually mean, right? I think families fall out as well, right? And I think you tend to fall out a little harder with your family when it goes wrong, right? I think ultimately, like the type of culture that I try and create is just a supportive one, right? I want to walk them down a path where they know that I'm not asking them to do something that I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And when it goes wrong, I'm there to pick up the pieces and help them, support them, and guide them. I think like a proper leader doesn't need to micromanage, right? Like we talk a little bit about micromanagement around. You see, you're either a bad leader or there's a bad hire.
Yeah.
Like, and somebody needs to decide which is which, right, and where that sits. And I think as a leader, you need to create that kind of passion, right? So salary creates presence, right, as they say, and a mission creates passion. So very much like, what is their passion? What are their drivers? What are their goals? What are their individual drivers outside of work as well? And find that. And I think like this sort of complete package, we're a family and this and that, it doesn't really work. It's you're individuals within a team setup. What are those individual drivers? And then you drive the culture of, actually, if we co-work and we share best practice and we're closely linked and we support each other, and we're in each other's corner and we help each other out when it goes wrong, like your individual function, your own goals all tend to grow as well along with it.
It's a shared mission, isn't it? So rather than saying that it's a family, because as you said, it's a bit outdated now. And I think some organisations use it because it's like that sense of psychological safety. Okay, maybe you might fall out of your family or you might actually be really close to them. But actually it's about that high trust community and working together in a way that you're supportive of each other rather than labelling it a family, because families do fall out ultimately.
We used to call it a family, didn't we? I think there was a period where it was the phase 3 fam.
I think that works up to maybe 10, 15.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was at the time, because we're talking 10 years ago now.
Yeah, showing our age.
But as well, I think what we have is very much a family first culture.
Yeah.
And it's ingrained in everything we do. Say family first, colleagues second, clients third. That is our priority. And we're not, ashamed to share that. And I think that's where there was probably a bit of a miscommunication, that we want you to put your family first, not we are a family.
Yeah.
But we should behave as a group of people who look after each other in the same way that a lot of family values do happen. But it became a little bit kind of more complex, didn't it, when you've got everybody in one WhatsApp group, for example, in the company, and then somebody leaves the business, so you need to get them out of the WhatsApp group, and there's an exit
that
goes,
moment.
and everybody goes, what's happened there? We're like, there are certain things that you can't really do anymore once you get beyond that level.
Definitely, right. And I think this is sort of like, trust is the sort of the invisible currency to like a high performing environment, right? And I think this family feels like trust. It's really just another word for trust, because you should be able to trust your family, or hopefully, right, above anyone else, right? So like, that's all it actually is. And I think I've never fallen into that trap as a leader, because I've been in the RAF, and they probably talk about family and like this kind of, we are family, we're all brothers, we're all in it together. And I've definitely felt that within that environment, but I never looked at it as the same thing. So I've never fallen into the trap in leadership of almost like I've never said that. I never fell into that trap. And I think, it's just more trust to me. And the baseline of any successful team, there needs to be trust, transparency, and an ability to like say your piece, but in the right way. Yeah.
And it is psychological safety, like you said. Yeah. I think the other thing as well is how you go through that transition. So it's interesting from Employment Heroes' perspective as well, because you've been a small company in Australia, massively exploded over years, and then coming to the UK, started as a really small team again. So it's almost like I wonder if there were things that they learned the first time round in growing that they're now carrying into the UK growth. Is there?
Yeah, I mean, it very much feels like we're like a small team, but with like a sort of juggernaut that sits behind us, and it allows us to be like super flexible in our decision making. But we feel like we've got this kind of the infrastructure and the support that sits behind that, and the learnings as well. So my my buddy as such is the head of partnerships in Australia. So he's kind of probably quite lucky for me. He's kind of made a lot of the mistakes along the way, and I can kind of follow suit, right? And we're probably about maybe 3-4 years behind on paper as a channel to the Australian function. But we very much feel like we've got the playbook on how to execute and the learnings from that area of the business. But we can still operate super silo as well in our decision making and the speed to making and implementing changes. So that's really exciting. I think that's one thing that I've really enjoyed, right? I've worked at kind of version and zero in the past, and obviously the larger organisations and the UK presence is obviously a lot larger, and those kind of pivotal behaviours that you need as a flexible leader to really impact a certain area sometimes feel like 5 or 6 decisions away from you on the ground that understands like how that actually would benefit us. But I've not felt that an employment hero, and almost instantly if I've asked for something, I've got it, which is really I'm really enjoying that.
And you've got the money behind you as well. I suppose that's everything. There is an established business, and I think when we were going through that, it was very much we had to be delivery. I mean, I remember Mike being kind of head of IT, head of marketing, looking after the website, full-time consultant, and you were head of sales as well for a while, and out on the road doing sales. So when you have to do kind of all the jobs, it actually then, I suppose, can feel a little bit like a loss when you're actually just doing one job then, can't it? Because you're going from touching everything, knowing what's going on, to actually being quite, no, this is my lane now that I stick in, and there are other people that do that now. And it can feel quite strange as you're going through it.
It can. And then as you continue to grow, I also think there's that stage where you end up over-engineering processes because there's more people involved.
Yeah.
They've all got their own sort of OKRs, KPIs, etc. So how do you overcome that? Because it sounds like at Employment Hero, you had the opportunity following on from Australia to make deliberate changes when you wanted to, but then the chance to preserve a particular process or culture.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, I've only been there kind of 2 months, right, to really get fully to grips with how that is maintained. But I think ultimately, like the people who are at the forefront of these key decisions are super accountable for it, and they're not too far away. They're an inbox away or a Slack message away from these decisions. So it allows you to not worry too much around. You can kind of just test the water and see how it bounces back a little bit. But the culture of Employment Hero as a business is very much around that kind of almost that kind of new business mentality, even at the scale and size that it is. And I think that's a lot. Obviously, the CEO is also the founder, and he's still in touch. I've been on multiple all hands calls with him already, and that kind of expectation from his view and how he sees and the values that he sees within his organization like plays out. I think sometimes you say like you find out culture when the CEO walks out of the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that's the opposite genuinely at Employment Hero, because he's very present in the room, but he's also everybody is empowered to go away and think differently and innovate, and our values are very much like, if it's wrong, let's fix it, and you tell us how. Don't come with problems, come with solutions kind of mentality.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well because you get to the point where, and it's probably there's a certain number, I think maybe between 50 and 75, that you start to think in terms of we're trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
And actually, it's really hard when you get to a team that size. When it's smaller, it's easier to manage, and you can sense unhappiness and sense when there's fatigue or challenge. When it's a lot bigger and you have more personalities to bring into the mix as well, you have to actually acknowledge at some point you will never be able to make everybody happy.
No.
And that's the thing that's quite difficult culturally, isn't it, to actually accept that there will be some people in the business who aren't happy being here, and that. In a business of 75 people, there's probably going to be at least 1 or 2.
And it relates back to the piece when you mentioned, say, around the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
You have to have exit processes that don't end up poisoning the water after an exit, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think the point around that kind of, that bit around like poisoning the water and kind of how that separates that. I think the challenge is with businesses as you grow to scale to a certain point, it's keeping the right people at the right moments. And I think, unfortunately, what can happen if you don't have fixed processes, you get burnout, right? And the burnout tends to come from the people who care the most, and actually the people who probably carry the majority of the burden of a lot of these like multi-tasks that you mentioned, the types of people that they go to. And I think that is when businesses really lose momentum, because they don't understand that it's actually because they care that they now feel a certain way. And they look at it like, well, they've checked out, they're not on board. No, they're frustrated that they can't almost accelerate because the processes aren't in place. And at that point, you kind of live or die by it a little bit as a business. And I have generally seen that in most of the businesses that I've worked. There's been a point where we can't keep the best people and we have to almost start again and recycle that process. And there's normally learnings, but it's a painful learning process.
So when you go back through that cycle, would you recruit based on someone's values or behaviours that meet the small business, or on something else? Because like we said, the skill, of course, that new hire could make or break when you are only a small business.
Yeah, I mean, there's different points where I probably do actually pivot on this a little bit, depending on the needs of the team. I think I would always generally hire through a will over a skill metric. The type of attitude. They talk about like bring someone into your culture. I know, and I always want a culture add. I want someone who's going to change up the culture and add additional value into it. So I firstly focus on that. Then I think, depending where we're at in terms of a skill set, maybe across the team, have I got somebody that can do X, Y, Z, or has got enough experience within that, and that'll play out. Generally, I'll probably hire those types of people first and foremost, and then the culture add kind of plays out in the long run. I think you can teach anybody with that will, right? But you can't teach the will. Yeah, you can teach the skill into the will, and not vice versa, right? And I think, and I sort of focus on if people don't fit within that culture, it's normally based off some sort of ego, whether there's certain activities that they don't want to do, they feel that they're above something, they haven't got the right attitude to pivot because they've been told that maybe that's not the best approach, and that's generally the kind of the cycle. So generally, I would definitely pivot and change necessarily, but I would generally hire through will, train skill, and fire through ego.
Yeah. I'm going to get that printed on a t-shirt.
I feel like there's a lot of things you've said today that we could get printed on t-shirts.
Really good advice.
We're going to get a summary of them at the end. No, it's interesting though, that, because I think you're right in terms of teams. You can have somebody who's got the will, but I've had this conversation with a manager quite a lot, not in phase 3, actually in family life. And he says, but this person's got the best attitude and they really try. They never succeed, but they try a lot. But why are you rewarding the try and not the success? Because you can have the best motivation in the world, but if you're in sales and you never sell anything, you're not actually delivering what the business needs. And there's got to be a point where you say, we've got to make a decision on if this is the right job, and is there something else you could do instead that is more in your skill set?
Yeah, but absolutely. Listen, right, I think as a leader, you've got a responsibility to understand what good looks like across that format and that process. I get people who are terrible at this stuff, but the execution in the deal, they'll do it every time and they'll always hit a number. But actually, the detriment of the after effect of that deal normally is, if you actually based it on an ROI perspective, it'd probably not look particularly good, right, in terms of customer experience, the churn, etc., the bad impression, whatever, right? So I think there is a balance now, but what I try and do as a leader is very much like take it from top to bottom. So at the minute, the team that I've just come into, we didn't have a view of really what the daily cadences were, what success looked like on the daily basis. I broke it down so that we can understand every single input metric and how that converts across the whole sales funnel. And then that allows me to go, well, we're good at that, or you're really good at that. You do that really well. You do that really well. And with my own environment, it allows me to pivot and kind of nuance my coaching or support for individuals on that basis. But as a collective kind of bigger picture for the team, it also allows us to sort of go, this person's really struggling on that. Let's focus on it. And then eventually we're going to have to make a tough decision on it. But also, I can go, well, this person's not particularly good at the last stages of the sales cycle, but they're brilliant at supporting the customer, driving value. The product knowledge is fantastic. The response rates is brilliant. So maybe they're more supported for a partner success team or a customer service team potentially. So I always try and find the strengths within the individuals and understand what that looks like, so that I've definitely done that plenty of times in my career, where we've kind of pivoted somebody's strengths into a slightly different space within the business, and it tends to be like a pretty good solution for everybody involved, really, because they take a knowledge in one area and then they go into another that's kind of matches their skill sets.
And often that individual might have an awareness of where their strengths lie. So it's nice then that they can work for an organisation where you can pivot and you can adapt to where they're better.
Yeah. It's I suppose it's also about the accountability on you. So if you're not being held to account in terms of your team's performance, then you could let them get away with it. But that also damages the culture for everybody else in the team, doesn't it? Because they're seeing that you're letting them get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, the impact of keeping somebody who's not doing what needs to be done. Somebody who's delivering on a number, but then their aftercare is not particularly good, or the response rates, or I'm getting complaints filter through from partners. None of that really is a positive for the team, right? In any metric. So I think my job is, again, just to create a platform. What does that look like? And then kind of fill the holes as we go. And I think on that basis, I can fairly hold my head up and say, like, generally the teams that I've managed, been managing for 20 years nearly, I've found a way to give everybody a fair shake of what good looks like within the role across each of the role responsibilities. And generally it plays out to my favour, because I've had very low churn in my teams. I had best NPS scores across my teams at Virgin and Zero at various times as well. So I think people want that accountability, they want that visibility, they want that ownership. I think this kind of facts over feelings we talk about. And if you don't create that as a leader, kind of a platform of facts, it just becomes, they're this or they're that, or they act a certain way, or they're not very good at that. Actually, when you break it down, it's never that black and white.
It's interesting. That's something that we've just been through in my department in customer success. It's around customer sentiment, which as humans we've been recording for a while, but now moving to be much more data driven, so we can actually identify early on what's going on with those customers and how we adapt. You're exactly right. Facts over feelings.
We had this conversation this morning with one of your team. We've got a customer who are really, really happy with the service, but there's one little element that isn't quite hitting the spot for them, and it's the way that we do a certain thing. And the team's response in the past would have been, oh my God, this is a disaster, we need to sort this out. But actually that person's had the adult conversation, said everything else is working right, there's this one little pain which is something that we can't change and you can't change, it's a software related thing. Is this actually a deal breaker? And having that adult honest conversation is what you need to do internally as well, isn't it?
The best salespeople are the people that address deal breakers early in the head on in the sales cycle, and they've got the confidence to go all the way to the end and go right back to the beginning and revisit it if necessary. Always. I
think, to use your phrase, run into the fire. That's what that's what you're saying.
Away from it.
Yeah, not away from Definitely. It. Yeah, because I think it's often the case, I've used this analogy before, you can be in the car with the headlights on and you can see a crash is coming, but nobody's doing anything about it. We're just waiting for the airbags to protect us. I think that's where, as leaders, as people working with customers and partners, it is very much that view that if you see something coming, let's just be open and honest about that and have that conversation. And that's the thing that drives the culture, that transparency, honesty, clarity, that helps, doesn't it?
Definitely. We talk about like a pre-flight checklist a little bit, and it's just about setting the expectations and giving that clarity from the get-go. I think when you try and mislead or you take them down a path that there's not, you don't feel fully involved in that decision-making process, and it's you taking them on that route and they're not fully bought into it, it's only going to cause you more problems downstream. And you're going to have to recircle back around to that opportunity, and you're going to probably have to build some bridges to get back to where you were. So very much the sales teams that I run, it's around that transparency piece, setting expectations, don't overpromise, and underdeliver and over-deliver. Sorry,
It's interesting as well, isn't it? Kind of back to the culture angle, because I think the first time that you get something like a grievance, or the first time you have to do a proper disciplinary, it's so disappointing as a leader to have to be one that you're in that situation where somebody's so unhappy they've had to raise a formal process, and you think, how did we get here? And I think you can start to take it really personally. And the first person to leave. I can still remember who that was, but even to this day, you think it's really, it's really interesting, isn't it, that the things that you take personally at work, because you do spend a lot of time there, but then as you get to a certain point, you have to start thinking you can't carry that emotional burden for everyone. And as we said, there are going to be some people who are unhappy, and let's deal with it in an adult way, in an appropriate way. So as we come towards the end, we always ask our guests on the podcast to give us a story about back when you were green, something that happened.
I mean, we did discuss this before, but I'll go over it again. But my first experience. So I went from the RAF. Pretty everything's by the book ish to a degree. Rules are very strict, and then I went to university, and then I ended up in a small business as a sales leader very quickly. Don't know how that happened, but it happened real quick. And then all of a sudden, the director decided to move the operation out to another country. Right. And in that process, I somehow got lumbered with the job of herding the 40 members of staff that were going to be let go just before Christmas into a room to distract them as they got kind of pulled out one by one. And I think from that point, I always thought, I didn't stay at that business very much longer after that, by the way. But I would say that I learned exactly how not to treat people in a difficult transition or a process like that. Yeah. And I definitely took it into my leadership values and the way that people should be treated moving forward. It was definitely a bit of a wake-up call. I didn't appreciate it. And yeah, I got the brunt end of a lot of that, even though I was literally just pointed to do that role. It didn't go down particularly well. Yeah.
It's interesting though, you learn how not to do it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Absolutely.
It's often the way, isn't it? And I think, that's a powerful message, isn't it? Learning that. It's always, there is never a good way of doing something like that, and you will always have a way that upsets somebody in the process. It's not a nice time, but I think you can only put so much thought into that as well. But that doesn't sound like a very nice
no, terrible. And I think as a leader, since those types of moments, obviously that one was very much out of my control, but I try and control these environments as much as I possibly can. And like we said, the facts for you feeling stuff. Yeah. If you have to get to a position like that, or there's a relationship breakdown with somebody, at least you can say, listen, this is kind of where we stood. This is what the reality of the situation. This is how it played out. This is my role in it. This is your role in it. Yeah. And this is where we're at now. And I think as long as you can feel a little bit like that, then business is business.
We can all be adults. Yeah, exactly. Great. Well, last thing, our standard feature is the green light feature. So is there something that you want to give the green light to this week?
Yeah, so I just think about this. So I like to go to the gym quite a lot, and I end up with my new role going generally at times, peak times, which then gets very difficult to get on the equipment that I need. So I'm thinking, right, could you, in the Pure Gym or the JD Gym app, could you create some sort of system where you press a button, so there's a button built into the machine, you press it, and then that indicates that there's somebody waiting for the machine, and it's you. It's connected to your app or something, off location or something posh like that. So then you can go and train on something else or go and do what you need to do, and then it gives you a notification when that person has left the machine, and you can go and jump on it real quick, and everybody else will know that you're next in line because the light system would be there. And then you press it. Someone presses it when they want it after you. Yeah. So I think that could work. I think there's somebody out there that could make that look really good.
It's the digital equivalent of putting your 50p on the pool table.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yes. Exactly that.
Yeah. You know that you're next in line.
Yeah, because the frustration, 9 times out of 10, you'll be watching a machine at those times specifically. And as you put your weight down to go and walk to the machine, somebody else walks in. So let's create a little bit of manners around this type of stuff, and a little button might fix it.
I bet if you go to somewhere like David Lloyd's, though, they've probably got an app where you can pre-book the specific machine. So maybe we just need to upgrade our gym.
Maybe that's the answer.
Okay, great. Well, Pete, it's been fantastic having you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So for now, all that's left to say is thanks for joining us in the HR Green Room. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with more honest conversations, some more brilliant guests, and of course the regular Green with Envy and Green Line moments. So don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, and join the conversation. Until next time, keep giving the green light to the things that matter the most.